Hey, what's going on guys? My name is Rampage and this is my Battlefield 4 campaign review. The following review does contain some story spoilers, so proceed with caution. The player plays as a character called Sergeant Daniel Recker, a member of the US Special Ops Squad codenamed Tombstone. His squad members include Sergeant William Dunn, Sergeant Kimball Irish Graves, and Sergeant Clayton Pakowski. Later joined by CIA operative Laszlo Kovic and Chinese Secret Service agent Hyung Hana Shui. Battlefield 4's campaign takes place in 2020, 6 years after the events of Battlefield 3. The tensions caused by these events from Battlefield 3 between Russia and the United States are continuing to explode in magnitude. However, on top of all this, China is at the breaking point of war, and Admiral Cheng, the main antagonist, who wants to overthrow the current Chinese government, and if his plans go accordingly, then the Russians will have full support of the Chinese. Doing so will cause China to be at war with the United States. Although this may seem as a compelling story to some, I found some noticeable issues. The story as a whole had great promise, but in terms of the presentation was quite lacking. Cramming explosions and big semi-epic corridor battles doesn't portray the message of the story as well as it could have. Some noticeable plot holes not being filled in by in-game gameplay, such as the reasoning behind why Shin Che was targeted to begin with and why Admiral Cheng supported the Russians. These issues became more annoying to me as the game progressed, as I like to understand my surroundings and expect to understand these little details. I don't know, it could just be me. Over-the-top dialogue with yelling at squad members when not in battle, such as Major Greenland speaking to Tombstone in a so-called majorly fashion, implying that all majors yell and swear over nothing or little issues. These little story issues that I had with the game are probably just personal issues, but I don't know, let me know if you guys had any sort of issues. Battlefield has always been at the top in terms of graphics fidelity, other than Crysis of course, with extreme attention to detail during the first few missions. I say this because the in-game quality slowly started to become quite blurry, in a sense that the textures I found to do this in some missions were characters' faces, rocks, and even the ground textures. Saying all this though, the environments as a whole were extremely gorgeous, but looking at some objects or textures such as foliage looks 2D and showing up blurry took away the immersion for me. As I played this game on PC, this might be a PC related issue only, but I'm reviewing my experience. Some noticeable changes this time around to the gameplay includes a point system. The player is given points for killing the enemy and bonus points for knifing or getting headshots. Although this was a weird feature to add to a single player campaign, DICE claims this would add replay value to their single player. Personally, I would have preferred a co-op campaign if DICE considered using a point system for single player. I don't feel the need for a point system. If you replay the campaign or any mission, your points received for the second playthrough are not added for your first playthrough scores. Well, mine weren't anyway. Now the actual gameplay was constructed again with a basic objective and a corridor pathway. This direction wouldn't have been a bad thing if the story was compelling to the player. Now some of you may have different feelings, but these are my own. Riddled with buggy and non-responsive AI, the experience got quite frustrating at times from both enemy and ally standpoints. The allies would only engage properly if you spotted the enemy for them, which made the gameplay quite annoying when you once again are a super soldier doing all the work. Enemy AI were determined to shoot you, but didn't have the smarts to flank or protect themselves. On top of this, the enemy would lock on throw grenades at you constantly, which forced you to move away, but this would occur even after a death animation, meaning they would somehow throw grenades while dead perfectly next to you. The environment sound design in Battlefield games is always superb, and Battlefield 4 is no miss. Hearing almost every enemy talking between themselves, trees whistling in the wind, the gun sounds, or even the explosions, all sounded top notch once again. The way DICE creates sound is something that helps drive the immersion, but I am one of those people that looks for issues or looks for ways to hate something. So the only thing I could say about the sound or soundtrack that was downing in my opinion was the reuse of the Battlefield 3 theme song, but as a less grungy tone but more happier. That would be my only pet peeve in terms of sound design. Other than that, spot on. In order to feel for the characters or the raging war that's going on is completely lost when the underlying goal is to score points. As stated previously in this review, if DICE wanted to implement a point system in something other than multiplayer, then it should have stayed in a co-op mode rather than single player. With the pure focus of in-game destruction and weather changes still doesn't reflect on the in-game choices you have to make to stay alive. Well, in this case, run around the enemy, spot the enemy for your squad mates, which became quite boring and unsatisfying. Not to mention the bugs that occur with the enemies locking grenades at you constantly in order to get you out of cover still remains a frustrating rather than enjoyable tactic for enemies to get you out of cover. These issues resulted in an unsatisfying gaming experience and portrayed DICE as a developer that doesn't care too much about campaign as we can come to expect. Next time, leave out the campaign. For that, Battlefield 4 campaign receives a 3.5 out of 10. Please don't forget to rate, comment and subscribe. My name is Rampage. Peace out.